Right, I just want to make it clear from the start that this is a review of the new suspension on the Interceptor. When a manufacturer designs and builds a new bike, especially if it's at the budget to mid-range end of the market, for a start it has a very limited budget. And then the other factor to take into consideration is this. A set of suspension springs straight out of the box are a completely different animal from the same springs that have done, let's say, 800 to 1,000 miles. Because in the first few hundred miles of use, the properties of those springs change slightly. Weight and stress is placed on them. They relax slightly and the dimensions of those springs change. They effectively soften up. And this is why, and it's a story that I hear so often, people often buy a bike and think the suspension is wonderful, and then 1,000 miles down the road, they're complaining about it, that it's too soft, it bottoms out, etc, etc. Now, in an ideal world, the manufacturer of the bike would select springs which were a little bit too hard initially, and then would soften up to the right spring rate as the bike was broken in. But that brings on a couple of problems. Now, for a start, it would increase the production cost of the bike very slightly, which the accountants wouldn't like. But more importantly, there's this to take into consideration. The suspension would likely to be quite harsh initially until the springs wore in. And most dealerships don't keep their demo bikes very long. For financial and tax reasons, they usually get rid of them when they're still very low mileage. So when Joe Public test rides those bikes, he would find that the ride quality was perhaps a little bit harsh, and that might prompt him not to buy the bike. So they use lower rated springs so that the bike feels wonderful out of the box and you don't encounter any problems until the bike's done, certainly a few hundred miles. Now, a good quality aftermarket spring will encounter the same sort of wear and degradation within the first few hundred miles until it relaxes and settles in. But the manufacturer of these aftermarket springs takes that into account, and so the spring, if you like, is slightly overrated out of the box, settling down to its intended specifications when the required amount of miles has been put on the springs. And to that end, setting up these new springs for the correct amount of sag, etc., is to some extent a pointless exercise, because for every 20 or 30 miles you do, for the first few hundred miles, the characteristics of those springs will change, and you'll need to reset your sag until the suspension reaches that settled in point. And once it's reached that point, you can set your suspension up knowing full well that the characteristics are not going to change for thousands of miles. As far as suspension is concerned, these are just the facts of life. There's nothing we can do to change that. But I have, over the years, had numerous people approach me who've bought aftermarket suspension, and they complain to me that the suspension is too severe, and that it's not what they were expecting at all, usually because they've only maybe put 50 or 100 miles on it, and the springs are nowhere near bedded in. Now, the world of social media and people requiring free information from you is what it is. And generally speaking, although they're very pushy to get the information that they want from you, you very rarely hear back from them as to what the results of the advice that you've given them actually is. But over the years, a handful have come back to me and confirmed that the information I've given them was correct, and that a few hundred miles down the line, they're more than happy with their aftermarket springs. So to that end, I'm going to have to report back on comfort at a later date, although I'm not saying that they're uncomfortable. What I've found over the years is setting the springs up with just a little bit more spring preload than you would normally select does hasten this process by perhaps 200 or 300 miles. So for the past 20 years or so, that's what I've always done when I've got new shocks or new fork springs. Generally speaking, out of the box, you'll find that a good manufacturer will set the springs at the halfway point for preload, and this gives you a reference point to work from. Now, with a new spring, to get the appropriate amount of recommended sag, you would have to lower the preload very probably to its lowest setting. And in fact, even by doing that, you might not achieve the correct sag with a new spring. Now, the problem with this is that you will forever be adjusting your sag for the first 700-800 miles. Because as the springs soften, the bike will start to feel sloppy, it'll start to wallow, and you will soon get fed up of constantly adjusting it. So comfort wise, for the first 400 or 500 miles, what I generally do is just set the preload to the point where it's bearable. Now, this is probably more important for the rear shocks than it is for the front springs. The rear shocks bear most of the stresses from riding, and they undoubtedly have the biggest impact on comfort. Now, yesterday being Wednesday, I took the bike out for a 60-mile run over one of my favourite rides. It's a short spot of high-speed riding along a motorway, about 4 or 5 miles, and then up over the Wolds. I turn right at Market Wheaton, then head back home on the A1079. It's a really good mix of road surfaces and types, with a good mixture of 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour, 60 and 70 mile an hour stretches of road. I set the rear suspension up to about 20% preload and relaxed the front fork springs to round about 35% preload. Now, this is a route that I'm very familiar with. I've done this route on the Interceptor as part of its running in procedures in the past several times, so I'm very familiar with how the bike behaved on its standard suspension. I also have a particular point at which I used to find I was getting very uncomfortable and needed a bit of a break for a few minutes, which gave me a reference point as to whether this current suspension setup was causing more or less fatigue than usual. Now, first of all, 70 miles an hour on a less than perfect motorway surface. This was always the bit that I liked least, because with the original suspension your body took an absolute pounding on this stretch of motorway at 70. Now, starting with the front suspension, the first thing that really struck me was the feedback through the handlebars. The original springs weren't horrendous, but they did feel a little bit numb. You sometimes felt a bit remote from the road surface. You couldn't always tell exactly what was going on until things started to get out of hand, at which point the bike usually felt like it was just completely losing the plot and you had to slow down. It's almost like witchcraft. The Interceptor felt like a completely different bike. My first impressions were that there was not much going on with the front suspension, which was odd because there was plenty going on with the rear suspension. And it wasn't until I looked down to see what the fork legs were doing that I realised that in actual fact the front suspension was working very hard. It was just doing it without any drama. Comfort wise, it was, understandably because of the way I'd set it up, perhaps a little bit on the firm side. But I think partly down to the choice of a 10-weight oil instead of a 15-weight oil, because the forks were able to react very quickly. In fact, throughout the entire ride, the front end was tight enough to be very, very stable and very precise, but never gave any cause for discomfort. Don't get me wrong, the Interceptor as it was before was a fantastic handling bike, providing the road surface wasn't too challenging. But this new spring kit does bring the level of control and sure-footedness up to another level. Now, the rear YSS shocks are a slightly different animal, bearing in mind again that it was set up on the firm side. It seemed to be at its best at high speed. There are a few unavoidable ridges and bumps on this section of the road which normally will kick me out of my seat as the shocks bottom out. Don't get me wrong, these shocks still gave me a hefty kick in the pants, but it was nowhere near as bad as what I've been used to with those standard Gabriel shocks. And never once on the entire ride did the YSS shocks ever bottom out. I think my biggest takeaway from this motorway section is usually it has me wincing and glad to get off it, longing for the next 30 mile an hour stretch of road so that I can regain my composure. A feeling that gladly was absent for this entire ride. Once off the motorway and onto sort of 30-40 mile an hour roads going through the villages west of Hull, at lower speeds the back end did feel a little bit bumpy, I've got to admit, and later on I did slacken the preload off a little bit more. The front end, however, just behaved impeccably no matter what was thrown at it. Now, the run over the worlds is my favourite part of this entire ride. Long sweeping bends over fast roller coaster type roads, spoiled only by questionable road surfaces. Now, by this point I had stopped off and just slackened the preload on the rear by 2 turns. I would say bringing it down to about 15% preload at the back. And although in essence not perfect, this is where the combination of front and rear upgrades really came into its own. The bike just felt absolutely planted, with the whole ride quality just smoothing out. The bike in this state had just reached the point where you could choose every single line with confidence without worrying about sudden unseen road imperfections messing everything up. It coped really well with everything that was thrown at it. We tend to think in terms of suspension being there to keep us feeling plush and comfortable, but the main function of suspension is actually to keep the tyres in contact with the road as much as is physically possible. And this is where this YSS combination shows a clean pair of heels to stock OEM suspension. There's been no compromise in the way it's been built. It's been designed to give optimal performance, and that is exactly what it does. Now, as time goes on and these springs start to relax, I will have a look at finding that elusive point whereby you've got maximum performance with maximum comfort. But that's not something that can come straight away with proper quality suspension. A little bit of patience is required. Although I will mention my normal stop-off point where I've usually had enough on this ride and I need 5 or 10 minutes to get the sensation back in the top of my legs. A spot that I'm usually glad to reach. I found myself just riding on past. I didn't feel the fatigue that I normally feel on this ride. So, although these shocks were not set up optimally for comfort, I think that's a clear indication that they were actually doing a significantly better job at keeping me comfortable than the original setup had done. Now, this little part of the project has created a lot of questions from viewers. There seems to be sort of 3 different mindsets. The first being that the bike is a cheap customization platform and you can buy it with the justification that the extra money can be spent on these kind of modifications. The second is that it's a cheap bike and what's the point of throwing that kind of money at modifications. And the third, of course, being the purist view, in that the bike is designed to look like a vintage 1960s motorcycle. Why would you start adorning it with bits that detract from that? I obviously fit into the first category, and there is no right or wrong category to sit in. It's all down to personal preference. But for those of you who do want to go ahead and flash a bit of cash at improving the handling of this bike, I can wholeheartedly say that the YSS range of suspension upgrades, though not cheap, are well worth the expenditure. I know that Öhlins have brought out a range of similar upgrades for the Interceptor and the Continental GT, but probably because these bikes are budget models, Öhlins have chosen not to go the whole hog with these products. They are, in comparison to the YSS, a much more basic, low-spec product, something that reflects in the price. I realise that the outlay for both front and rear upgrades on this bike with the YSS products is a big outlay for most people. I get that. And I would say that if you cannot afford to go the whole hog, the front suspension upgrade on this bike for the price is a must-have. It's absolutely a no-brainer. It absolutely transforms the bike. So if you have to make a choice between the two, that is the modification to go for. Once again, I will leave a link to Wimoto's site. I believe they're the only importer of YSS in the UK, should you want to have a look. Once again, thank you so much for watching this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification bell so that you can be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Now, there are still some lockdowns in place in the UK, so I will be doing another virtual bike ride on Saturday morning. And what I'll try to do is pick out the best portion of this ride for you to enjoy without me waffling on. So until then, if you have to ride, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.